Welcome to the chase. You know, we're all running this race. We're all trying to claim victory in it. In my job, I get to sit down with wealthy people all week long. I hear about their wins, I hear about their losses, and quite frankly, like a bartender, I hear about their heartache. And I don't want you to run that type of race, or at least I want you to succeed at the race that you're running, and I want you to succeed at something that matters. Think about it like this. All the while you're chasing after something that's good, God's chasing you with something great. Coolest job title in the Navy. What did you do?
So I was a boarding officer, but we got to hunt pirates. It was a fun time. I enjoyed the good that I got to do.
Yeah.
But going back, I think people they don't understand the amount of risk that statement. All right. I was getting to the risk.
To the risk.
The risk that it took to put your grain or food or anything on the ocean. It's not like it is today where we go out in our John boat and we can fish. Like we're talking about going out in a boat that you don't have communications with, you don't have anything. And so it was a very risky thing to do.
It was about a 3-year turnaround. So the verse that we keep talking about is Ecclesiastes 11:1. Cast your bread on the surface of the waters, and you'll find it after many days. And there's a lot of translations of this, and this was written by. Traditionally, it's written by Solomon. We're not going to get into the authorship debates on this, but yes, and traditionally the turnaround on a shipment across the Mediterranean Ocean was about 3 years. Mm-hmm. And we can look into 1 Kings and we can see a lot of his empire, his trading prowess. King Solomon ran his empire more like a CEO than the warrior kings that were typical of his day. Certainly his dad, King David, was the warrior king. And they had the 4 Kings highways that ran through the nation of Israel at the time, which was the land bridge of the Fertile Crescent. It connected Asia, Africa, and Europe actually did those wrong. Asia would be here. To me, Asia's here, Europe's here, and Africa's here. I'll turn it around for the camera. Yeah. And so the trading went through there. They also would have been a pinch point for ocean trading. Instead of going down over the Horn of Africa, people would come across the Mediterranean and then ship it out to the Far East, straight through what's even called the Silk. I think it was called the Silk Highway at one time. Now, was that called the Silk Highway during his day? I'm not sure. But you have significant investment. That's the point that I'm getting to. And you can go in and see a lot of scholarship in the Bible to see that Solomon is talking about his investments as much as he's talking about generosity. A lot of times, chapter 11 is taught on generosity, which is accurate also. Okay, but verse 2 says, divide your portion to 7, even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur upon the earth. So this is how it
divide it to 7, divide it
to 8. Okay. Manage risk. Diversify.
That's what I heard.
7 to 8. Yeah, you're sitting there thinking, how many positions? Is this telling me how many positions I should have in the portfolio?
Large caps.
No, it's not telling us how many positions. Mm-hmm. Although I guarantee you people have built portfolios with that in mind. It would be bad to have 7 or 8 positions, but
seems a little legalistic.
It seems a little legalistic at that point. So this is where that section of verses 1 through 7, I would say this. Number 1, invest wisely and systematically.
Okay.
We like rules-based investing. Mm-hmm. We like trend following, rules-based investing. So when I say systematic, we like our Chief Investment Officer, Clint Sorensen, Joel Holden, our investment committee, trend following, systematic investing, math formula, algo-driven decisions. We like that. But systematic investment does not have to be math formula, algo-driven. Yeah. It does need to be rules-based. That way it's not human gut instinct decision-making. It can be qualitative.
And I think back to, I forget which episode it was, but the listeners can go back through it. We have the canned slim method.
Yeah. Yeah.
Earlier on in everything.
I mean, I love teaching that because it does teach a systematic approach. I wouldn't necessarily use, got a lot of qualitative stuff in it, but it teaches
a method.
It's a method. That's right. Systematic approach. So and also invest freely.
Okay.
I think that we've had in the last 30 years, we've had episodes where seasons in our nation where Christians did not like the political environment, and so therefore they didn't want to invest. Yeah. Every single time I've seen that, it's been a mistake. They think the country's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm done investing until this is solved. Okay. And that is not just conservative, right-leaning Christians, okay, but just Republican voting Christians. I mean, Democrat, liberal. I've heard it from both in my career.
Right.
Okay. And so it is this idea we need to invest freely. Okay. Yeah. But to be able to do that, you got to do the next two things. You got to manage your risk.
Okay.
Okay. Verse 2. Manage risk.
7
or 8. Diversify, right?
Less on the number, just the fact that you do.
That's right.
And
we can do a credit spread rotation. That's
don't let me nerd out.
Right. That's right. Well, the next number 3 is kind of covered in verses 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
And
because
we're still in Ecclesiastes.
We're still in Ecclesiastes because we screwed this up the worst.
How?
We manage your emotions.
Okay. You know, we talk about this quite a bit. What is the worst plan you can possibly make for a client? What's the one they don't follow?
Right.
No. Because if they're not going to follow the plan doesn't matter.
Right. I remember a portfolio manager, good friend of mine, love this guy. Alex Pasden was working with us, and Alex said, Chris, I can build y'all 100 models at work. Which ones will your clients follow? So in your experience, where do people mess that up?
Where? When?
Yeah.
So when the market goes down. When things come from the unexpected. Is that where you were leading?
That's not the only place that mess it up. It's the major place. That's the easy one. That's the low-hanging one. Yeah.
And then on the flip side, I also think there's a recency bias.
Yeah.
Where they don't take enough risk inside of it. Yeah. They want to play it too safe.
But since you were picking on me, Blue Boomer,
okay.
I'm going to pick on your Reddit generation. Chasing the different stocks. We'll have a compliance list 19 miles long if I start naming them.
Don't.
Okay, because it'll be your problem to fix.
The Reddit stocks.
There we go. Why did your generation chase them up? And drove them up?
Well, it was to fight the man.
Who's the man?
You know, them.
Who?
It's always somebody else. It's them.
It's always somebody this. Mm-hmm. Who?
It's probably the same people that did it in the 90s and then turned into the man.
You remember that episode? You actually did one on that topic.
Yep.
You remember that?
Look at this, a recap episode.
It's a recap episode where we recap. Yeah. So I sat down and said, in 99, I day traded to finish paying for school.
Yep.
Good for you. I'm glad you made some money. Now, manage risk.
Yep.
Because it will come down. You know, this is whether people are chase stocks up or whether they chase stocks down. One of the biggest mistakes in both investment management and financial planning that I see in my career is they do not manage their emotions well. They have to keep up with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. Okay, the house size, the car size, the club memberships, the things for the kids, the trinkets, the toys, the image of success. When there's such a simple plan that God presents in His Word, that if we follow, you will be successful. Mm-hmm. I can't promise financial success. Right. That is, it's not even in compliance. It's not mine to promise.
Right.
It is fully within God's purview to promise it if He wants to. Mm-hmm. Okay, and He does. And so most people, vast majority I've seen, they mess up their plans with their emotions.
Yeah.
In whether it's investing, and instead of buying low and selling high, they buy high, sell low. Mm-hmm. Okay. The recency bias. So we can go unpacking all kinds of ideas of it's always gone up. I mean, we'll recap 19 episodes when we dive into that. But go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, this is another term where we've talked about before, but their burn rate and their savings rate. When you're spending, when you're burning off of your income, buying the best new bat, the best new cleats, all for your kids because your kids deserve it. And you send your wife to get her hair, in our case, our wife to go get their nails done, their hair done, make sure they have the newest car, the newest phone, because they deserve it.
Yeah, right.
It throws you off of what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah. And we go back to the way we opened up the recap episodes of it's when wealth becomes a curse.
Yep.
And there's no peace, there's no joy, there's no stability.
Mm-hmm.
There's all of what you think you're buying, you're not. You're pushing that away. You're pushing peace away. You're pushing true joy away.
Yeah.
You're pushing stability away.
Right.
When you buy in to very common American society ideas about money.
Yep.
I think of, I will pick on this guy by name, Dave Portnoy, saying losers take profits, winners push their chips to the center of the table. What a stupid statement. Mm-hmm. What a typical American false bravado, stupid statement. Mm-hmm. And we buy into this.
Yeah.
And then people invest this way and they go, well, look how much I made. And I look and I say, I've done this for 25 years. I've been watching this. You're showing me 12 months.
Yep. How long did it take to get grain back?
What's that?
How long did it take grain to come back from
which one? From Solomon overseas. 3 years. 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And you could have lost it all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, So the Bible teaches us solid ideas. I know wisdom isn't cool right now. It's kind of a blue boomer kind of an idea, right? But I always tell my daughters that wisdom never goes out of style.
Right.
Even when we put a different name on it, really the people that people think are cool, like at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, they're people with wisdom.
Yep.
Some maturity. They're stable.
Yeah.
They're not full of false bravado. They actually are strong. Yeah. And they're smart enough to know they're not the strongest.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's to know that in the room.
Yeah.
We talked about, it's a different topic.
It's a different topic for a different topic.
What do we need to do is we need to kind of take another break because I want to push us into biblical financial planning.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. All right. Intermission 2. It's feeling a little bit more like a play, like the Nutcracker maybe. I don't know. Have you seen
Nutcracker? Oh man, the first 2 acts are awful. The third one's awesome. I love 3.
3's the fight.
Three's the fight scene. Yes,
rats.
we're fighting rats in number 3. Yes, I have daughters. Of course, I've seen the Nutcracker.
So this is a little bit off topic, but
day's coming.
Huh?
Your day's coming.
Well, we talked about Pirate Hunter. I actually enjoy the Nutcracker.
I actually do too. So the first scene is pretty rough.
I grew up, and my mom loved the Nutcracker. So every Christmas, that was actually one of our traditions. We would go and see the Nutcracker. Now, sometimes we saw high schools do it. Sometimes we saw real theatrical companies doing it. But
it was a tradition in our high school that the ballet. The dance troupe did the Nutcracker.
I was going to say, if you had a ballet troupe in your high school.
No, we had the dance troupe that did the Nutcracker.
So I wanted to get us to a place where we could talk about biblical financial planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a quick question. Can you do it? Can we do it? Can we do biblical financial planning? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do we do it here?
Yes.
Okay. So how do we do it?
Okay. All right. It's 5 rules. Let's start off with 5 rules. Just simple 5 rules. We're gonna go fast, and then we'll unpack them.
I like it.
Okay. Number 1, tithe.
Okay. Don't run. What is the definition of tithing?
The word is a 10% gift of something.
Gift? So it's okay to just do it?
It's a gift. Hang on. It's 10%. No, I'm joking because we talk about this all the time. It's a 10% donation contribution from something. Mm-hmm. Can be a tax as well. In the ancient times, it was a tax given typically to a religious organization. That's
Okay.
good old Mr. Webster for you right there.
Okay.
All right. So what is a tithe? It is a 10% contribution from your income, your asset growth to your church.
Okay.
That's what it is. That's the definition for us today, Christians today.
All right.
Number one, tithe. Number two, pay yourself first.
Okay.
I love putting that number two.
I
That means
know.
save and invest, right? Number three, don't buy it unless you've earned it.
Okay.
Pay off stupid debt and stay out of debt. Stay relatively debt free. It's like I teach that. We'll come to that in a minute. Number four, plan. You can go a long way with the first three.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you get into number four, now you're going to get into some complexities because you're going to build wealth doing the first three.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to step into some complexities of planning, goal setting. How do you reach those goals?
Yeah.
Asset protection, insurances.
We talked about small goals and big goals a few episodes ago.
Exactly. Taxes and death.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way I put those planning of goals, protection, taxes, death. All right.
Yep.
Number five, trust.
Trust.
Trust God. Don't trust that money. Money is a wonderful tool. It's an insidious master, and it will only be one or the other. Okay, it doesn't sit in between at all. It is either in charge or it does what it's told. But if you don't tell it what to do, it will tell you what to do.
So if you don't have a plan.
If you don't have a plan, it will tell you what to do. You don't believe me? How long did you go to work today? We're not done yet, right? a few hours a day. There you go. All right. So number one, tithe, and you jump on this because there's this idea that's taught now, and you taught me this. So how were y'all taught? I mean, when you hear tithing in church, what do people typically think is meant?
Give what you can to the church.
Yeah, right. That's pretty common, isn't it?
I mean, we had a discussion and we call it life group, Sunday school.
Life group, Bible study. Yeah, right.
Somebody asked, what's the difference between a tithe and an offering? No. It's one of those things where it's like, wait, there's a difference?
Yeah.
Wait. So you're saying when Annie Armstrong, whatever week it is,
Lottie Moon, Annie Armstrong.
You mean I don't?
Yeah.
That's an addition. It was. Right. It's different. I think a lot of times for me growing up in the church, when I did tithing was something. It was my responsibility to give to my church, specifically for my church.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed more of a burden and more of a whenever you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a responsibility, but not something you really talked about with friends or anybody. There's not really accountability on it.
And that's a terrible mistake that we make in church, Josh. 99% of pastors out there do not know who gives and nor how much. And listeners right now would probably come unglued if I were to talk their pastor into looking into this at their church. And for those of you that go to church with me, I haven't talked our pastor into doing it either, right? So
stand by.
Stand by. I'm not trying either. I'm not going there in my own church. But this is well, yeah, actually I would. Y'all know I would. People that know me know I would. All right. But how can you disciple me in all the areas that this book says?
Right.
And you don't know areas as important as money.
I don't know.
You cannot.
Yeah.
It's impossible for you to teach me well, to disciple me, if you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's impossible for me to be held accountable in a good way, in a loving way, in an appropriate way. I mean, the best things that I was ever taught is because somebody held me accountable. Mm-hmm. If I got out of line as a boy, my dad whooped my butt. I'm thankful that he did. Mm-hmm. Was I thankful at the time?
Probably not.
Nope. Hurt. I'm glad I had coaches that didn't allow me to have bad form. Mm-hmm. Right? I paid for school playing football. I'm glad I had coaches that rode my butt to do it right. Yeah. I'm glad in business I've had mentors that loved me enough to tell me I was wrong. And this is an area that we don't love people enough anymore to tell them they're wrong.
Yeah.
Say, I love you, so therefore I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And we're also so afraid of saying, this is the exact truth because God said so, period.
Yeah.
And when we're in that discipleship, you're teaching me, you're discipling me, Josh. It is incumbent upon you to be able to carry that responsibility. And if you can't, then don't disciple me. Find somebody else to. Be honest enough that you can't, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know more than me, where more often, the discipleship times run its course, right? And it's time to go. So we've gotten on discipleship for a second. You seem confused about this.
No, I'm not confused. It's one of these things that
you would love to disciple me. You'd love to tell me what to do. You'd enjoy that. No, I'm kidding.
It's one of these things that, again, we've actually had, you and Joel, and then you on your own, when I've sat behind the camera, a lot of the things we talk about come back to the point of good discipleship. And I think that there's a lot of places for us, especially with the roles that we've played in church, the roles that you've played in church. You have 3 girls and a wife. Joel has 3 girls and a wife. I have a boy and a girl and a wife. There's a lot of instances.
And one on the way.
And one on the way.
We don't know who's, we don't, you got clothes for each. You're good.
We got, don't. Anyway.
All right, keep going.
But my point being is we gravitate there because we see a need. We see a yearning for people and probably our listeners to have that. Mm-hmm. But I want to make sure today that we keep on biblical financial planning.
You want me to get back on money? Okay.
Now, I am fine, and I hope anybody listening, if you have any questions, that you ask Chris, that you come in and ask it. But it's a big deal, discipleship, and I also think that's why we enjoy our job the way that we do it a lot. Yeah. Because how many times have we had conversations with clients where you talk about, there's returns, there's budgeting, but it's, hurricanes.
Yeah.
I got to go help my family. Hey, we lost power. Hey, I lost my home.
Right.
Hey, I lost my mom, my kid.
Yeah. I've got cancer. I've got somebody in rehab. Yeah.
And so how many times have we led with finances and ended up
somewhere
at an opportunity somewhere else? And so
and that's because money touches so many areas in our life.
It does.
We don't really want money. We want the stuff it buys.
True. It's a medium.
Right. Very few of us, and I think this is actually yours and my temptation, where money is what you keep score with in our industry.
Yep.
So therefore we like money. Mm-hmm. So that but we're one of the few people I know where money is a temptation like that. There's other clients of ours where and they know it a lot of times, that it's just their temptation. They just like seeing that number go up. Okay. They like the creativity. This is where the God's blessing, and you've taken it too far, where you like the creativity of investing in business and you can do really good work with it, and you take it too far and it becomes where your identity is. And that's what you got to run away from in financial planning. In biblical financial planning, you do not get your identity from this. The tagline of the chase. All while you're chasing something good, while you're chasing success, security, and status, God is chasing you with something great.
Yeah.
Psalm 23:6 is where that statement comes from. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So in that verse, we see goodness.
Yeah.
God's grace, His giftedness, Him giving us success. Mm-hmm. Surely goodness and mercy. God not giving us what we deserve.
Yeah.
So we're secure in His arms. We're safe.
Yeah.
There's our security. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll dwell in His house forever. In other words, I'm in His family. I'm an adopted son of God. Romans 8. That I have an identity in Christ. Mm-hmm. There's all the status I could ever want.
Yeah.
There is no amount of money on earth. Give every dime on earth to me, and that status as the Son of God in His courts forever is more valuable than all of the money on earth. And that is a true statement. I would turn down every penny because the identity in Christ is more valuable.
So
right? I'm way off of financial planning, but this is an important piece of it.
I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, or I guess I should say redirect. So tell me practically here.
Practically here.
Wait. Let me tell you where I want.
Well, what you
30 to 40 years old.
Yeah.
young professional. We can say doctor, we can say lawyer, we can say business owner, we can say running your own lawn company, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Okay, I say 30s because most of the time when you're in your 30s, you have a wife, or you had a wife. If you're divorced, you have kids more than likely. You're in between with your parents getting older.
Yeah.
You got your job.
Figured some of your own things out right now. Hopefully, it's
Right.
just for you and your family to figure it out.
But I got all this.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to manage my money.
Yeah.
How do I line this up? Priorities.
All right. So number one, we go back to number one, tithe.
Okay.
And the reason I started just hammering down on that is because we now have this weird thing in church where give what you can, give 1%, give 1%, grow into 5%, then maybe you can grow into 10% one day. And I'm telling you exactly, no.
Okay.
Right? No. I will help someone walk through that. There are some extenuating circumstances.
Of
but
course.
Quickly, aggressively get to giving 10% of your gross income. Why? Because God says so.
Okay.
It says, Malachi 3:10, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse so that there may be food in my house, and test me in this. Right? If I do not open up the windows of heaven, God's talking, if I do not open up the windows of heaven and pour you a blessing, in other words, bless you even more, you don't have room enough to receive another blessing. In other words, I've already blessed you a ton.
It doesn't have to be with money.
It doesn't have to be with money. We've already talked about wealth is money. It's also time. It's also food. It's shelter. It's and it's security. It's stability. It's time. It's time. Opportunities, education, resources. There's abundance of wealth that most of us. This goes back to why the show. Most of us are already blessed with it.
Yep.
And we're looking for more blessing. And God is like, where would you put it, dude? Seriously? Like where? You can't manage what I've already given you. You screw that up all the time. Why would I bless you more? Okay.
So now I'm tithing. Okay.
Right, so you have to understand this.
Tithing.
You're not negotiating with God. No.
Nope.
This is a command. This is not a suggestion.
Okay.
This is important to understand. This is one of those God says, period. Because in verse 8, 2 verses before, it says, will a man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. But you say, how are you robbing me? You're cursed with the cursed. Right? So I don't know what being cursed with a curse is, but it's got to be pretty bad. I've said that many times on this one. Right? It's like Paul would say, you're damned to hell. Okay? I mean, that's rough.
Yep.
But it's got to be real bad. Right? You're robbing God if you don't tithe. So giving 5% is robbing God of 5%. So when we teach, give what you can, right?
Yeah.
Without teaching the tithe, we're teaching somebody overtly to rob God. That's why you cannot teach us this way. That's why this first step is so important, and I'm parked on it because it's so important.
Yeah.
Tithe, give 10%.
Okay.
Now I can teach you the other 4. Nobody's going to have any problems with the other 4. Right?
Yeah.
It's number one, tithe.
Well, I would argue and say it's also at the end, the trust.
Yeah, I mean, really, how would you go trust God if you're not doing what He's telling you to?
Yeah.
You can't. It's like it's like being in trouble with dad, a good daddy that loves you but whips your butt.
Well,
and you think you're going to get up in his arms and he's going to like say, it's okay, I'm not going to whip your butt. And you continue to be out of line. You're not coming up there saying, I'm sorry, Daddy, I'm wrong.
I think mine, for me, it was the trust. You know, giving, saving, resting.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other side of it. You know, you give somebody a checklist, especially somebody who's a high achiever or looks at something or wants to be better.
Yeah.
The saving, the spending correct, and planning, those can get pretty easy. Now, the stopping and being okay to just be still, I think is really hard.
I think I've heard you say this before, and it's so important. Why did you have a problem with trusting?
Because I believed in myself.
Yeah.
Nobody else was here to save me.
Yeah.
But I would just get it done. I didn't know how. I didn't know why. Right. But I thought that I was on my own doing it myself.
Right. Right. And where God would say, I gave you that sense of responsibility.
Yep.
You are taking it too far.
Yep.
You know, you can't save yourself. You can't save yourself from your sins.
Right.
You can't save yourself from a broken world, right? I think so many times, Josh, we men especially, but women too. Women do this differently than men. Typically, I'm making a blanket statement
in general,
here.
Yep.
But we try to control. We think we're in control of things that we're laughably out of control of.
100% agree with that. We don't have to go. I could point to specific times in my life.
Yeah.
Where I can easily say, "Oh, I thought then."
Yeah.
Oh, I thought then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely was not the case.
In God, I think a lot of times we think God laughs at us when the truth is he's crying. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes he does laugh at his own children. Not when we're like wholesale, grossly, sinfully out of control. I mean, it's just when we're like struggling with something.
I laugh at my kids.
I laugh at my kids too. This is where I think I learned this from. I love that he gave us that analogy of that. It's not an analogy; it's an exact description because he says he adopts us as children, so we get to look at him as father.
Right.
Because we do laugh at our toddlers,
mm-hmm.
and it's like we're watching our toddler playing the floor, just getting frustrated with something that all they've got to do is turn around and say, "Hey, Daddy, would you do this, please?" And you would go, "Sure, happy to." Done. Because you know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's infinitely more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Or you turn around and you hand it to you and he says, "Hey, Daddy, do this, please." And you go, "No, this is not good for you."
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, take it away.
My daughter putting her shoes on the wrong way.
Yeah.
At a couple of years old.
Yes.
Funny. My 6-year-old son. Okay, bud.
Dude, stop. Yeah. Yeah. And but to let her learn differently, you'll let her walk around until her feet hurt, won't you?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't God do the same with us?
Apparently.
Yeah. He'll let us walk around until our feet hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come to him and say, "Daddy, would you fix this, please?" And it's not coming to him like he's a big butler in the sky
mm-hmm.
or he's a big banker. It's going to our heavenly Father and saying, "Daddy, help. I'm doing something wrong and I don't know what it is."
Yeah.
And he points us to his word and go, "Here you go." He doesn't have to give us an audible voice or a vision. He gives us his word. He may give us an audible voice and a vision, but it will never contradict his word. And we should always start with his word.
So we gave 5 mm-hmm. steps to biblical money management.
Yeah.
If I'm on the outside, I'm listening to this and I'm saying, you know what? I got to do this.
Yeah.
I need to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should you try to do it? I'm not saying looking in the camera, I'm not saying that your first step should be come find us and see what to do. Want to make that clear.
No.
Should you who should you talk? How
well, people, I can't look at the camera and just say generally here. Call Josh.
Right.
No.
So to make sure you get on the right track,
do
you need a person? Do you need somebody else?
No.
Okay.
Actually, no, not at all. God tends to, from a discipleship standpoint, Christy, my wife, when I started tithing right, she always had this rule follower. You know, God puts opposites together. I love breaking rules. They're so much fun to break. I just break them for fun. I break my own all the time, though, because I can just see what happens, right? Okay. Christy followed the rules, and we're paying off stupid debt when we first get married. Yep. 2 months in, like 90% of it was mine, 10% was hers. I actually think it was like 95%. It's fun stuff. Like I wrecked a motorcycle. I paid for school in London, Josh. I mean, bar tab in there too. There's a lot of stupid debt.
Right.
All right. The motorcycle was fun,
but London was fun too.
London was studying finance.
The King's,
at
right?
King's College. Yes, I did actually study. I did go to school, and I was like, all right, anyway. So paying off stupid debt, and we're like, all right, we've got to get this right. And we're on the way to church one day, and she asked me what my tithe is because we're brand new. We're figuring out how we do this. And we're a few months in. And I gave some 10% of some net number. She can do math. She knew that it was not a tithe. It was not the right number. She was so smart for a young bride to do this. She didn't correct me. Mm-hmm. She didn't shame me. Mm-hmm. She simply said, "Do you know how much is in our savings account?" Oof. Yeah, it was $400. I remember the number. That meant for the first time in my life that the bills were paid, the debts were paid, and there was $400 extra.
What a time.
Right? We were making really good money too. Right. We were doing well for a young couple, and we had just blown it all. You know, and God used that to demonstrate. Before I demonstrated me being being obedient, me kind of halfway being obedient. I was like playing with obedience, okay, which is disobedience, by the way. He demonstrated his blessing to say, I'm trustworthy. He didn't know that to me, but he demonstrated his blessing to say, Chris, I am trustworthy.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that $400 made up the rest of my tithe, made up the real number. I mean, I could do math. I mean, it's one of the things I can do. You know, I'm blessed or cursed. I'm not really sure which it is. Yeah, I cursed most of that, right? So we changed it. And we tithed, cleaned out the savings account, tithe it.
Yeah.
Immediately, just like that. Not care what happens, God demonstrated in a snap of a finger his trustworthiness.
Yeah.
Okay. And he also, I remember this is one of those times it's not in God's word. This is one of those times I got in a prayer time with him saying, I will continue to bless your family, but I'm going to do it through Christy, which kills a young man. Right? Because I'm going to make sure you never forget this lesson.
Yep.
There's a lot of other story that goes around that, but he made sure I never forgot that lesson, that the importance of tithing. Okay, that 10% is just table stakes, by the way. It's just obedience. You don't go to God patting yourself on the back with this. No. Right? You're just doing what you're told.
Congratulations.
Right? Congratulations on being obedient, right? But God is saying, just be obedient to start.
Yeah.
All right, I can line the rest of this up for you. Just be obedient to start. So I know that we're trying to get to some practicalness here. Get out of the spiritual space, which is also one of the reasons when we started the whole podcast. You know, everybody said these are two different ideas. They're not two different ideas. Okay, so practical. Here you go. Number one, tithe. 10% of your gross income, 10% of your asset growth, 10% of what grows in a year. Okay. I will never teach a percentage beyond this because the Bible does not teach a percentage beyond this. But everything beyond this is an offering.
Right.
Offerings are just free will gifts to ministries that fire you up, to people that are in need. Okay, to somebody who's hungry and you got plenty of food, buy them a hamburger.
Yep.
All right, that's an offering. Can it go through your church? It can. Doesn't have to. Okay. Can it go to your favorite ministry? It can. Doesn't have to. All right. But it's where you get to go do things that fire you up. So number one, tithe, 10% plus.
Yep.
Plus whatever God's leading you to do. Okay. Number two, pay yourself first. I always say this. You need to be saving 10%, period, no less ever. 10% into a savings account until you got a 6-month emergency fund. Over 6 months to meet your basic needs, and then take 10% and put it into an investment account somewhere. Whether it's your 401k, whether it's an IRA, you need some short-term money, you need some long-term money. But you need to go 10% into an investment account, never less than that. And as soon as you're relatively debt-free, that needs to be in the 15 to 25% range.
I think anybody in America, especially now, can look back at 2020, whether you made more money or you didn't have a job and didn't know where your next meal was going to come from, can say, I see why I need an emergency fund.
Right.
I see it.
And I think it's something like 60 or 70% have less than $500.
Yep.
That's atrocious. All right. So you need a 6-month emergency fund, period. All right. When you get to that, you start putting 10% into an investment account. Okay. Number 3, don't buy it unless you've earned it. So debts. Pay your credit cards off and stay out of credit card debt. Pay your cars off. Don't finance it longer than 2 years. If you cannot pay off the SUV that's supersized and you don't need the space, let me say that. You don't need the space. Sell the SUV. Okay? Christy drove around in a Camry with 3 girls forever. Okay? Until they finally got too tall that it just like was actually, it just wore out.
Right.
Right. So it smelled like a swim locker room when we sold the thing. You don't need the supersized SUV for $75,000. Nobody does.
You don't need new Christmas decorations.
Nope. I'm sure last year's are fine.
But
right.
if you haven't earned it,
don't buy it. Don't spend it. That's right. Get out of the club memberships if you have to, but aggressively pay off debt. Wealthy people don't have stupid debt anymore.
No.
Wealthy people may have had stupid debt in the past, and that's why they don't have it anymore. Pay it off.
Yep.
Okay? The ideal spot to be is debt-free. The second ideal spot is the word I always use, relatively debt-free, where you have a mortgage. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yep.
Okay? If you buy a car and you borrow the money to buy it, which a lot of us, okay, pay it off in a year or two.
Yep.
Have an aggressive plan to pay it off. Don't come at me and tell me what interest rate you got because you can do the math. If you're good enough at doing that, then you're probably, your financial plan is we can move on to number 4, but you better be able to prove to me you're really good at that.
Yep.
That means that I'm making 12 and I borrowed it on 3. Fine, but you better have a plan because that one can manage risk because that one can bend back against you in a hurry. All right. Number 4, that's when you get into a serious plan. So now we're talking about what are your goals? Mm-hmm. When do you want, is it to pay off debt? Is it to retire? Is it to pay for the kids' college? Is it to grow this business? Is it to start this business? Is it to start this ministry? I want to be able to write a $50,000 check one day, Chris, to any ministry of my choice just for fun and not even pre-plan. Okay, then you got to grow some assets. What do we got to do? All right, so there's your goals. Number 2, protecting your assets. What are your insurance positions in? Okay, you get into a lot of different levels there, whether it's life, whether it's property, whether it's long-term. Okay. Number 3, taxes. All right, what are your tax brackets and how can you do better properly, legally, ethically? All right, things like Roth conversions, giving strategies into the proper accounts and categories, right? Yep. And number 4, death, right? Yep. So what does your estate plan look like? Wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, etc. Right? Number 5, trust. Okay, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about trust. And I remember the conversation with you where we have this idea that God helps those who help themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, like all old sayings, there's a thimbleful of truth in that. Okay, he gives us skills and strength and he puts us to go to work in motion, get into action, right? But at the end of the day, trust God. Yep. Hold every asset on your balance sheet lightly. You know, I hear the saying that, everything I own's for sale. Okay? It's fine. Mm-hmm. Everything I own's for loss too. Everything I own's for God. Yep. It's one of these days it's going to be burnt up anyway. We can look and see how a believer's life is going to be tested. Yeah. And we know that only those things that glorify God are going to withstand its testing. All right. And you can see it practically. Everything you own most likely will be owned by someone else in 50 years. Yep. It's not very long. Mm-mm. Right? And so you got to remember that about our assets, that everything we own could be lost. And if you're trusting God, that's okay. It's not foolishness. It's foolish not to be that way about it. Yep. It's just stuff. Most of it's just trinkets and crap anyway. Okay? There's some real valuable in there. There's right. But how we manage it, how we take care of it, that's God glorified. And that's wise.
All right. We have probably overstayed our welcome.
Probably. That's probably true.
Like a good Baptist preacher.
That's right. That's right.
So we talked about is money investing biblical, how to invest biblically, the purpose of money, and even why we've done this. I'm on here this week. We'll see.
Joel may keep you on here, man.
We'll see. We'll see. We gotta find a permanent person behind the camera as well, though. But
Joel doesn't want that job.
Right.
He just lets us play up here.
So I appreciate everybody being with us today. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're following, just know that we're on Apple, we're on Spotify. The video, if you're listening to us, is on YouTube, and you can find us on our website as well. Get out there, do something about it, and be
the person to take the lead in your family.
Sounds good, man. Take care. Good to see you.
For disclosure and citation information, please go to www.soundfsg.com/disclosures.